Calling all beings. Calling all beings.
Yeah! Welcome back to Calling All Beings, baby. And guess what? It's not normal tonight, baby, is it, Nathan?
No, it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's
paranormal.
Okay, yeah, paranormal. Yeah, exactly. We lost your mic. We lost everything.
It's
back now.
Acting paranormal.
Yeah. The intro was so amazing. It just it went to the other dimension is what it did.
That's still gone, DJ.
Yeah, still gone.
He needs a medium.
He does. Wonder if there's a paranormal tech help, like somebody you can call on the other side to help you with your gadgets and stuff. That would be pretty cool.
I bet.
No, we still can't hear you. So maybe just reset, do the whole reset, come back in, and we'll get started and just jump back in. So excellent. All right. So everybody, we got an awesome show for you tonight. We are very excited to welcome back, or to welcome the first time, Nicole Strickland to our show. As we've talked about before, this is going to be the second time that we've done a paranormal show. And the first time was almost, I think, like the second episode of Cav. So a very long time ago. So we've been doing the UFO thing. We've been looking at Bigfoot stuff, and we want to dive more deeply into the paranormal aspects of what we would colloquially call the phenomenon. And so we thought no better way to do that than to bring Nicole Strickland, who is a researcher, investigator, writer, podcaster. I mean, she does it all. She's also herself had a ton of paranormal experience since she was very young. And so she's going to come on tonight to educate us. And so with that, welcome to the show, Nicole Strickland.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be on your show.
Great to have you with us, man. We're very excited about it. So I was listening to one of your episodes recently where you were kind of talking a little bit about how you got into the paranormal. And it sounded like it started just almost from the moment that you came onto the scene into this world. So I was wondering if you could maybe just set the stage for our audience, tell us a little bit about your backstory and what you're doing now.
Sure. So, it's funny when I talk to people about this, I always say, never, ever growing up as a child, teenager, in college, never did I imagine that I would be, as an adult, researching and investigating the paranormal. It just kind of evolved, I guess, as it was supposed to. So, you always hear people ask that question, usually, what got you in the field? So for me, I've always had that interest in anomalous phenomena, even since I was really young. I even had experiences as far back as I can remember, about 4 or 5 years old. So I was born in Huntington Beach, California, and then my mom and dad and I moved to Las Vegas. And so it was our house in Las Vegas where I had some weird experiences, seeing shadow figures and some apparitions, things of that nature in our home. And so I just always had this interest in specifically ghosts and hauntings and the afterlife. And so that stayed with me. So I would read pretty much anything I could on it, articles, books. Back then there wasn't the internet and all of that. So then fast forwarding to, and I'm trying to shorten this because I could go on forever, fast forwarding to the University of Arizona. That's where I went to undergraduate college. My maternal grandmother, Helen Lopinto, her and I were extremely close. And so I'm going to try to shorten this a little bit. So she called me the night before she actually transitioned. And so just being grandmotherly, I guess she wanted to know if I was okay. And I thought that was weird. Now I kind of think maybe she suspected that maybe she was going to pass on. and maybe she was making the rounds just to make sure that her family was okay. I mean, I don't know. That's what I think. So I was talking with her on the phone, and then after about 10 minutes, got off the phone. Fast forward to the next day, my mom, her daughter, of course, called me in the afternoon, and I could tell right away by her voice that something wasn't right. And then, of course, she said, I love you so much, but grandma passed away in the early morning. And so, of course, I was devastated. And I just got on the next plane out of Tucson, Arizona, back to San Diego, where I'm from, and then spent some time with the family. Helen never wanted a funeral. So we just had a very private viewing with her. So I spent a few days. And then after that, came back out to Tucson, Arizona, where the U of A is. And I started having weird experiences in my apartment that I did not experience prior to her passing. But being that it was in an apartment setting, of course, my logical mind kicked in and tried to, explain it away. Okay, is it vibration? And, are my windows open? Things of that nature. But I could not come to a conclusion as to what was going on. So I started experiencing, especially my front doorknob and then my bedroom doorknob, it would rattle as if someone was trying to open it. Now, weirdly, my grandmother used to go around at night in her house and she would check the doorknobs. So I kind of made that connection, but I didn't at that point think it was really her. So this went on for a couple of nights. And then one evening I was actually sitting on my bed doing schoolwork, and I didn't see anything, but I felt what I felt is almost like a disembodied hand, kind of like touching my face. And I couldn't see anything, but it felt comforting. It felt peaceful. So that's when I started to make the connection of, okay, could Helen be communicating from beyond? But I also thought too, here I am grieving my grandmother's death. I mean, am I projecting this? Am I psychogenically projecting this because of my grief? I didn't know. So then a couple of nights later, I saw her full-bodied apparition appear in my room. It almost looked like she had a spotlight behind her, and she looked about 10 years younger in one of her favorite dresses, and she just stood there, and it was in color, and it was just very, very, very vivid for me. Again, though, that culminated into that, and it was very, very profound for me. But again, I was like, oh my gosh, is this actually a visitation from her, or am I actually projecting this? So I called my mom and talked with her, and we let Helen know that she's free to move on, and she doesn't need to be worried about the family or anything. And then after that, the experience has stopped. But that, even though I had an interest, going back many years, that one encounter actually propelled me into investigating the paranormal and the unknown. So I started shortly after that, and this was 2001. So I just started working with different Southern California teams, and then that led into forming the San Diego Paranormal Research Society in 2009. Actually, I think it was October of 2009. So, and since then, I mean, I've gotten the opportunity to meet so many amazing people in the field, not just ghosts and hauntings and the afterlife, but people involved in, ufologists and cryptozoologists and all of that, psychic mediums, you name it. And just everything kind of fell in place after that, and then I started writing books and, podcasting. So here we are.
Amazing. I love
Yeah.
it. I love it. And for folks that may, I mean, we've all, I think, had exposure to paranormal kinds of, shows, like in a popularized sort of sense. What's something about the paranormal that you think that sometimes most people get wrong, in how it's popularized in kind of media and things like that?
Yeah, it's kind of I guess, a contentious subject, but that's fine. I talk about it. For me, I'm a little frustrated at pop culture, television, what have you, almost portraying the paranormal, spirits, ghosts, even other beings too, as something that we always have to fear. Something that, it's just, oh my gosh, all of this, you have to fear it. It's completely evil. So that's something that I don't like at all. And another thing too is the tendency to sometimes over classify certain energies. So they're put in a box, and there's this four-corner box, and we don't really know everything about all of this.
Hmm.
So over classifying based on certain types of behaviors and things of that nature. So
That's
yeah.
great. Yeah. And I know what you mean. I mean, and I think I heard you talk about this too, that there's
Mhm.
often that like the high entertainment value of the paranormal, that they're kind of going for the thrills or
Right.
sensationalization, and in a way kind of losing what I get from you is this really meaningful human element to it.
Yes, exactly. You said it better than me. Absolutely. And there is nothing wrong with entertainment and things of that nature, but I think there's missed opportunities. Not to say that, shows shouldn't or anything in the media shouldn't be entertaining. No, but there should be a little bit more of an informative type of educational element so you can bring in the human component. So,
Awesome. DJ, I think your sound is working well. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I think the mic got scared and went to mute on its own, because when I pushed either that or someone that's, let me just say this, associated with Nicole made my mic go to mute. That's all I'll say about
I did
that.
it. It's my fault. See
That's
what I do?
impressive.
See the problems that cause?
I love it. It's like that senator said about what happened on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Alabama. He said, "This is good trouble. Getting good
Mhm.
trouble. You good
That's it.
trouble, Nicole."
Yes.
I will say it's not the first time that I've been around electronics and they just kind of, run off and do whatever they want. So
Wow.
I don't know.
Anyway, what I wanted to ask you, for our audience's purposes, because we have listened to some of your content and I got the answer to this question, although I have added on to it since I wrote the question. But could you explain to our audience, some of which is like UFO based people that may not know, very much about paranormal, as I don't. What is the difference between a ghost, a spirit, and then we'll extend that out to demon?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, and again, this is just
Mhm.
opinion here based on talking with others, my based on my own experience and reading about it all. So and it's weird because I'm even guilty of this, using the word ghost and spirit interchangeably. Technically, there is a difference. Let me preface this by saying that we still don't have 100% definition exactly what a ghost or an earthbound is and exactly what a spirit is. We think we do, it's theoretical, but again, we don't have that 100% definition. So a ghost or an earthbound, most people like to use the word earthbound, are energies of those human or animal that maybe have passed on, but yet haven't evolved necessarily through the ranks of spirithood. So they haven't gone up into the higher levels of being spirit. So they're, for whatever reason, there's different theories. They're stuck here either by choice or maybe especially in the case of like tragic deaths or, for example, suicides, maybe there's that state of limbo. And I know that's kind of a Catholic term there, but a state of limbo where they're not sure whether or not maybe they passed on. It could also be maybe they, like I said, by choice. Maybe they're pulled by grieving family members. They want to stay by the family. Maybe there's an object, or maybe they're wanting to stay with their home, for example. So there's all kinds of different reasons as to why potentially the energy of someone wants to remain as an earthbound. Now, a spirit, and again, earthbounds and spirits can communicate with us in similar ways, and we can see them in similar ways. But a spirit is someone that almost has that free will, isn't bound by the mortal plane, so to speak, and so they can travel to uh, the higher levels of spirithood and back should they want to. So just I think a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of intelligence, even too, for certain spirits. Now, demons, and that this isn't my specialty, but and again, some people may disagree with me. I, f- I feel that demons represent non-human energies that almost have that intent to cause malice or cause will or potentially possess living beings. So I think that there's much of a difference there. But in the paranormal, and this is, some people may completely disagree, and that's fine. Everyone should have the freedom to express their opinions and all of that, and be respectful and open-minded to others' opinions. That's my belief in this field. I do think that, again, going back to that, the pop culture, Hollywood, media, I think it overemphasizes demonic energy and makes it sound that, gives off the impression that maybe the ghost of grandma, the earthbound of grandma or grandpa, or maybe someone's brother that's coming, it's a demon. Everything has to be a demon. Everything has to be so
Right.
scary and all of that. I mean, we know that this is common sense, right? So I see that a lot, and that kind of makes me sad. I get a little sad when I hear, but I don't. I think so. I really feel that some people, or a lot of people, are starting to see through it now. I don't know how you guys feel about that, or what, if you have any input too on thoughts about demonic activity.
I think this one is really deep. So I think we're going to be able to go a couple rounds on this. Debs, go ahead, my friend.
Yep. So I have a lot of questions, of course, because I actually used to study ghost quite a bit. That was my interest.
Nice,
Um, but
nice.
but I've gotten to this point with studying UFOs that brings me back to the study of ghosts and spirits and the
Hmm.
afterlife over and over again. It seems to be that there's a correlation. And you've kind of touched on this a little, but I thought maybe you could expound on how your view of death has changed since you've been studying this.
Excellent, excellent. And it's interesting you asked me that question. I have an upcoming book coming out, probably end of this March. Of course, it's March. End of this month, probably maybe more like the first week of April. I'm slightly behind, but that's called The Afterlife Chronicles: Exploring the Connection Between Life, Death, and Beyond. And in the last chapter, I kind of elaborate, or basically elaborate, on what you ask about how moving through the stages of grief and loss can really help you further connect with the energy of your departed loved one, whether it's a human energy or an animal energy. So having this experience in the paranormal, and knowing that when someone I love passes on and moves on, that they're not forgotten, that the energy, the essence of them, their soul, for example, lives on and can still communicate. There's still that, the love never dies. So death can come knocking at the door, but it cannot, disrupt the bonds that we have with our family and loved ones and animals. So there's that knowledge of that, and it almost eases. I know that at the time when, for example, my mom and dad pass, yes, I'm going to be grieving. It's going to be sad because I don't have them physically here with me, but yet their energy, their essence, what makes them them, that still remains, even though I can't necessarily see them or hear them all the time, if that makes sense.
I'm gonna tell you what, man. There's so many places to go, and I feel like there's still a lot of meat on the bone with when
Hmm.
you said about that there is another that the demon is perhaps a non-human intelligence. But Nathan, let me pass it to you, sir.
Yeah, I definitely want to come back on that. Before we come back to that, I wanted to expound a little bit on this what we just talked about there. One of the researchers in the UFO field that's really big in our circles is a woman by the name of Leslie Kane, and you may be familiar
Hmm.
with her. She wrote a book called Surviving Death, and there's a Netflix series about it. And one of the things that is a recurring theme that at least I picked up on is that folks that are really interested in the paranormal, tend to be like highly empathic and caring kinds of people. Because what I get from listening to what you just said and from these other kind of anecdotes is there's this intense kind of human healing that needs to happen.
Yes.
And so much of the energy that is left is like this, as you pointed out, that there's kind of an attachment or like a residue in a way, that is present in these paranormal experiences is like looking for permission to be let go or to kind of make them feel at ease. And this seems to go back a very long time in human history. So I wonder if you could talk to that, the kind of the caretaking elements of paranormal work.
Wow, this is a very deep thought out question. I appreciate it because I often think that in many ways, and people may unwillingly be doing this, and maybe some uh, don't really care. There's a difference between, and I'm going to get to that, but there's a difference between someone who is desiring to be in this field just because they want to thrill seek and they want to emulate what they're seeing in horror movies and all of that, versus someone who really wants to get into the nuts and bolts of what goes on in paranormal investigation and research, and really wanting to establish a rapport with the energies that we come across, whether it's a historical case or a private residence or a business, for example. So this is, I think, where the whole respect and reverence of energies comes. And this expands to all beings, not just, ghosts and spirits. And I think if you have that connection, or that it's all about intention. I'm kind of going off in all kinds of different places because my brain's like, oh,
Not at
say
all.
this, say this, say this, that. Oh God, I hate when this happens.
Not at all. And in fact, I think we're vibing with you so hard right now.
Are you,
Yes,
it's
we
like,
are. Yeah.
yeah. So, it's all about intention too. So you have to kind of establish, okay, what is your intention for being in this field? Why are you in it? Do you want to just thrill seek, or do you want to actually make a really established rapport with certain energies or beings that you come across in your investigations or just in everyday life? So they're going back to that human element. I think for those people that are empathic, I would say most of those people do have that pure intent to want to do good and to want to kind of connect both realms. When I say both, I'm talking about the earthly plane and the afterlife, but even other dimensions. I often feel that maybe there's a nexus between all these different dimensions, and there's some sort of connection there. I don't know what it is, but that's just something that I often think about. You can kind of tell, and I'm going everywhere here, I know that. You can kind of tell when someone is really devoted and dedicated from a genuine point of view in this field versus someone that just is in it for other more superficial types of reasons. So yeah, so I kind of went all over there. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna tell you something. It's all Nathan can keep from doing to stand up and say, "Amen, sister," right now. That's what he's
Yeah.
wanting to
No,
say after what
it's
you just
so
said.
good. So good. And it made me the way you've talked about it is really reframing the way that I think about it, because
Mm,
so often we think about the relationship of the departed to the living,
mhm.
and how they're affecting us. And really what you're speaking to here is that the living are giving something to the dead. We
Yes.
are helping
The
them.
approach.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Mhm.
actually think and that's interesting you bring that up, because that is almost, if there's one takeaway point in my upcoming book on the afterlife, is that both worlds are connecting with each other, and they're also desiring to help each other and kind of fuse together. Oops, excuse me. So we're seeing that more and more, and I can't explain the reasons why necessarily. I mean, one is, well, look at the world now. There's so much heartache and challenge, and people are hurting each other. It's insane out there. So maybe that's one of the motives that, maybe, for example, the afterlife and even other dimensions are, maybe that's the main motive there for wanting to communicate with us more. I don't know. But there's definitely this parallel. I call it like a parallel connection between the living realm and other realms. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so fun. I had a question with it driving home today for all three of, or yeah, all three of you. Three of you, because I'm me. So there's a total of four of us, and I can't remember what it is. So this kind of tells you, podcasters out there, stop the car, get out your virtual notepad, and write down that question, because it was something that I wanted to pass through all three of you guys, but it may come to me during the discussion. What's interesting here, Nicole, is we had a guy on a couple of weeks ago, a Bigfoot researcher named Terry Wendell, and his website is called Rock Hill Bigfoot in South Carolina, and
Okay.
on the logo it says "Respect Between Us."
Oh, see that? I
So
love that. Mm.
I knew, and it just, what you said, and also I heard your partner, is his name Todd? Your
Todd
partner?
Bates, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
we actually, I've known him for years. We co-host Haunted Voices together.
Haunted Voices, right? And it's on radio in San Diego. Yeah.
It's his station, and it
Okay.
broadcasts from Robinson, Illinois.
Oh, does it? Okay. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's gosh, I think he has about like 18 or 19 hosts now, but some of us are on the West Coast. We're kind of all scattered, but
That's
I mean,
awesome.
it's his station. He lives in Robinson, Illinois, so
I
yeah.
loved, like he basically said, don't like go out into the field and be like, demand that a spirit appear for you. And
Exactly.
as his guest said the same thing. It's a respect thing. You respect them, they respect you. The guest said that, Todd said that, and that really resonated with me. And I'm sure that's part of your approach. Would you like to
Yes.
talk real quickly about your approach when you arrive on scene for the
Absolutely.
first time?
So, yes, pretty much if it's a scene of a place that I've investigated numerous times, or a site that I've never investigated, maybe I know about it, maybe I don't. Of course, prior to that, I would have, researched the property and things of that nature. Probably done at some point some client interviews and all of that. So I would have started my supplemental research of the property. But when I actually go on the property, there's a whole, I believe, when if people go on to a property and they just start investigating without any sort of introduction, I'm sorry, I don't mean to I'm not trying to criticize. That's not my method. I want to set the tone. And there's a difference between I'm just going to say this, and I'll get to that. There's a difference between a residual type of phenomenon versus an intelligence. So residual is something like a psychic imprint. It's a memory imprint on the environment that doesn't have any sort of intelligent or conscious thoughts of the present. So it's not like you and I interacting right now. It's just a memory imprint. For example, Gettysburg. If you go on
Hmm.
there and assuming they're not doing any reenactments that day and you hear a phantom cannon, that would be an example of residual phenomenon. But for the intelligent sort of energies that are there and they are aware of their surroundings, they're aware of us and they can communicate, yes, there's a whole opening that we do. We state our intent, we state why we're there. And something that we do as in addition to that, for example, before an EVP session or a spirit box session or an ITC sort of whether it's the Estes method or EVP session, ITC session, we will state, introduce ourselves, say, we're, of course, state the location's name and the time and all of that. But we will say, we would love to talk with you. You're not forced to talk with us, but we would love to learn about you and hear your story. We're fascinated by this location because of X, Y, and Z, whatever that may be. And we want to reassure you that we are here with respect. We come as friends and don't feel obligated to talk with us. And then we also say something like, if you are speaking to us or communicating with us and we can't hear you, please don't think that we're ignoring you right now. It's just because we can't sometimes hear you with our ears. That's why we have all these devices, or we might say gadgets or contraptions or whatever. But we also say, if you'd like to telepathically communicate with us, that's fine too. So we make it a very welcoming sort of environment. And of course, there's a whole setup phase. You want to, establish your home base and set up certain types of equipment and all of that. But once everyone is ready to go, there's that state, there's an opening, there's a statement of intent, and then there's grounding exercises. It is of my belief that no one should necessarily, well, you could communicate with someone at your house, but if you're on an investigation and you're not in the frame of mind, maybe you're not feeling well, whatever, that's probably not a good time for you to be conducting that investigation. So there needs to be a sense of grounding, a sense of emotional, spiritual, and physical grounding. So you're just at your A game before you investigate. So long
I
draw,
do it.
take an hour to answer
No,
that. Jeez.
no, I love that. I love that. I mean, I do it differently. I usually will go to the woods. I'll get in my bare feet and I'll say, Bigfoot, if you come out and come see me, I'm gonna give you a better share of your 401k.
See,
What
but
you
I
think
but I
about
love
that, big
that.
boy?
But
And
that's
no, I'm just kidding.
creativity, though.
I'm just kidding. I don't. I do actually do the exact same thing you do. I'll get in my bare feet, and I'll just state my intention that I just want to. I do it every time I go. I
Yeah.
go bigfooting unsuccessfully, but I'll say my intentions here is just to learn about you. I'm not trying to
Mhm.
invade your space and cause
Exactly.
you any harm or anything like that.
Exactly.
So
But bring humor into it too. I think, it works in some cases. As long,
okay,
as
I
long as
will,
it's respectful, I say,
Nathan.
but
I will mention 401k next time I'm in the woods,
you
Sounds
never
good.
know.
or
You never
possibly
know.
asking if he has PayPal. But Debs,
Right.
go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I see so many parallels between these topics. Like it's
Mhm.
ridiculous,
I
and then
know.
the telepathy, there's something trying to talk to us. There's
Mhm.
multiple different things trying to communicate with us.
Yes.
Um, so do you think that says something about us as humans or the people who are going out there trying to have these conversations? Or do you think that is because this is even religion, they're doing the same thing in religion. They're praying and trying to engage, and there's angels and all that. So why do you think that's happening? Like, is it something that we used to know how to do? It's like, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, this is a good question, and it does parallel religion in many respects. So I kind of think of, when you think of the human body and you think of our nervous system, and there's all these nerves and these synapses firing in all these different directions. So there's one person, and then you have a collective group, maybe in the US or just pretty much spread out over the world, that are going out and wanting to communicate with the beyond, I will say, and doing these sorts of investigations. So, is there a possibility that maybe one person, let's say out in Australia, could be doing something, or on an investigation, and that may affect someone out here in the US, maybe on an investigation or something like that? So there's, like I said, with these synapses, that's kind of how I see it. Everything that we're doing individually, but yet collectively, kind of influences the rest of us, so to speak. And I almost think it's like one big giant battery, and it's like this giant capacitor, and then we're all charging it individually and as a group. And so that's almost pinging out into the atmosphere, pinging out into the different universes and galaxies beyond. Hey, we want to know you. We want to learn about you. We want to communicate with you. And so that, I think, is what could be fueling it. And then just another thing too, and this is something that I've heard other guests say, and that I've just talked about with friends and colleagues, is the whole technological advancement. I mean, is there something with technology, and that's kind of helping all of this to happen? I don't know. So
Can I follow up on that real quick?
Yes, yes,
sure,
yes, ma'am.
I call it the cosmic internet. And I
there you
feel like,
go.
and I think with technology, we're trying to
Hmm.
capture the same thing that we're trying to do in all of these modalities.
Right.
The technology is trying to do it for us. In fact, I think they're getting to the point where they're going to have AI do a lot of these things, like try to reach out to the cosmos, essentially, try to reach out
Absolutely.
to the beyond. So.
Yeah, I love that. And it's like we're waking up something that may or may not have been dormant all this time. Maybe it wasn't dormant, but we just didn't really have a way of seeking it or finding it. And now we are. So You know, this is, I love these types of questions because it gets you to critically think about this type of phenomena that's out there.
And I want to, because that topic also, I think we're going to try to draw these three things together before the end of the show. But Jules is our chat monitor; she's in there, and this
Hi,
is her
Julie.
question for you. Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, you are so awesome, Nicole. Already, I think
Oh,
we're just
oh
like
my,
we love you already.
oh, I
Uh,
love you guys too. I know,
yes,
right? It's like
ma'am.
a, yep.
Yeah, we could feel what you're saying because if we were paranormal investigators and it basically took one haunted restaurant bathroom for Deb to go running back to her seat in the restaurant. But if we were, we would want to approach it like you if we were brave enough. And I don't know that we are. So Jules is asking, what opinion do you have for spirit box devices versus EVP via recordings?
Okay, yeah, this is an excellent question. So let me just say, so an electronic voice phenomenon is not a disembodied voice. So an EVP is something that our recorders or recording devices, it'll capture some sort of voice or sound. If it's a sound, it would be an electronic noise phenomenon. But an EVP, it's a voice or sound that we don't hear with our naked ear at the time. It's only, in review of the audio that you pick it up versus a disembodied voice or an audible voice phenomenon. And then so the ITC, instrumental transcommunication, is essentially real-time communication between us and whatever spiritual being we're trying to communicate with. And so there's different devices for that. ITC is a little bit more controversial just because people claim there's a little bit more subjectivity to it. So if you're doing, for example, and there's different devices out there, but for example, the PSB7 and PSB11 varieties are two common ones that people are using nowadays. There's many others as well. But for the sake of this, I'll just use the PSB7 and PSB11. So what it does is it sweeps nanoseconds of sound as it goes through the bands of AM and FM radio. So it's thought that energies can use the frequency of that electronic scanning to somehow communicate and speak, whether it's one or two words or a phrase, for example. So the difference, I use both methods. I use EVP and I use ITC, but with ITC, you have to pay attention to the subjectivity, and it has to be a little bit more controlled, because if you're doing a session and you have a bunch of people around stating out loud, oh, I heard this, oh, I heard this, oh, I heard that, that's already, there's so much power, suggestion, and bias with that. So what we look for to try to eliminate that is we try to have people, when possible, maybe write down what they heard. If it's something completely obvious that everyone heard, of course, that's fine. But what we look for is can everyone hear what's being said and understand it, or understand part of it? Is what you're talking about, so is the answer or to what they're saying, or whatever word or phrase that comes through, is it does it correlate to the history of that property or to the questions that the investigators are answering? And if that's a yes, then that's something to pay attention to. And then also, if you get a word or a phrase actually, that kind of, you can tell that the device already scanned like 8 or 9 radio stations, but yet that whole entire phrase kind of, I guess, developed over that, then that's something to pay attention to. So again, my main thing with it, and I'm long drawn out answer here, is that ITC, in my opinion, is a little bit more subjective, a little bit more there's bias in it and all of that. EVP it can be as well, even with the Estes method. But just good old classic EVP, I think, is less, you worry about less subjectivity with it, and less power of suggestion, so to speak. So I use both. My advice is experiment with both and see what works for you. And again, it's location dependent too. So if you're in a location that is known for a bunch of audio, probably maybe experiment with both. So it just depends. Yeah.
Nathan, it's easy to see why Nicole was like West Coast paranormal investigator of the year. Can I get a name, man?
Oh yeah, no, it's fantastic. I mean, there's just so many directions I'm thinking of taking the conversation, but I wanted
know.
to I wanted to ask. This is kind of a broad question, but what's the sense that you have with the paranormal community about kind of the age in which we now live, and is there a particular energy that you're kind of picking up on? You kind of hinted at this earlier, I think, in the conversation, and I just wondered if you could kind of expound on this. Is there a sense in which there's a shift happening in our collective awareness of this issue, or a rediscovery, I think is maybe even kind of hinted at? What's your take on the time in which we find ourselves?
But yeah, this is a very, I love these sorts of questions. And here I go with my mind going all over the place. Yeah, and I think about this, and there's some sort of energy shift that's occurring, and I can't quite put my finger on exactly what that is. It seems that for some reason, this goes, I think, beyond the television shows, beyond Hollywood and all of that, that whole cosmic shift going on. I think there's something in the cosmos, like I said, and that's almost perpetuating the paranormal phenomenon, things of that nature. Uh, oh my gosh, let's see. There's younger people coming in. I am seeing this. There's younger people coming. I'm 43, so I just revealed my age. But there's younger people.
Young girl.
Oh no, gosh, man, I would just turn 21. Where'd that go? Hello. Anyway, so
just left U of A.
it just happened. What the hell? Now we're at. Oh my god. Oh, anyways, so I'm seeing there's different almost generations now in the field, but maybe it's because we're more knowledgeable of the field and it's more infused in our society. But I think there's a little bit of a difference between the younger generation and the older. When I say older, maybe, people in their 30s or 40s or older, just intent wise. And again, I may be wrong on this. It's just, and maybe it's that younger age that pays more attention to the paranormal being almost thought of as like one big entertainment venue. So I don't, yeah, this is a good question. I would have to think more on it, but there is some sort of shift going on. Like I said, I can't quite put my finger on exactly what that is, but you can kind of feel it. You can kind of feel it. So it's more infused, and more people are opening up to it too.
Right.
So
right.
Nathan feels a sea change. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Nathan.
No, I'm just
Nathan
agreeing with you.
These two both feel that there's a sea change, and they're looking at it from all three perspectives, but primarily from the UFO perspective. So it's kind of bouncing that question off you, because you have tentacles spread all over the paranormal community. Are people seeing that we're in a moment, that we've perhaps arrived at a moment that we've not yet?
yeah, so you just made me think of something. I almost think we're at a cross now. Again, well, my opinion, take it or leave it. I think we're almost at a crossroads. And I'm not just speaking for the ghost research community or the afterlife community. I'm speaking for all the different subcategories of the paranormal. Hi, can I talk? Paranormal field there. And it's like we're at this crossroads that we're at, like we're onto something that could be a huge, massive discovery, but we could either go about it the right way or go about it down the path that can cripple us. And so that's something that I'm kind of paying attention to. It's something there, but again, I can't really put my finger on exactly what that is. I don't know if you guys have picked that up as well.
We talk about it a decent bit, I think, because we've had our kind of science has taken us really far, and it's given us amazing things. Yet we've also we're kind of coming up against some of its limitations, and we're becoming aware of some of its of its limitations, or at least we're becoming aware of how some of the core assumptions that we've held for a very long time aren't in fact correct,
Right.
which is generally the kind of, it pretends that we're on the beginning of a change, right? When we're starting to realize that our models are not working the way that we think that they should, that tells
Mhm.
us that we're on the cusp of a discovery.
Right.
And that's
Right.
what it feels
Mhm.
like with this topic and UFOs and all these kinds of things, that they are reminding us that the models that we all thought were kind of like set in stone and everything was great, we're done, we figured this out, those aren't in fact correct. Like our assumptions are wrong, and we've got to rework our model's understanding of reality and incorporate this broader phenomena that is happening, and treat it with respect and seriousness, and not just sort of like brush it off as like, well, that's just another crazy story.
The
Humans come up with crazy
metaphysical
things. Exactly.
weirdos.
Yeah. Just another one of those weird things. Instead of brushing it off like we have for the last many decades, I think we're now
Mhm.
kind of coming to a place where, like, well, wait a minute, you're telling me you've had this experience, I've had this experience, let's maybe take this seriously and not laugh it off as just kind of a fluke of the human condition or whatever.
Right. I mean, that's so eloquently said, and it's almost like it's in front of our face. We're getting all these synchronicities and things of that nature, and it's begging us to pay attention.
Exactly.
And so not everyone, with going back to, it's all about intention, right? Not everyone with the intent to really want to know what this is all about. Maybe someone's wanting to do this because they just want to get on TV. I don't know. But for the people that, like us, that, and those in the chat, that really want to have this genuine uh understanding of what's going on, yeah, I do think we're you said it beautifully. It's just something like that's right in front of our face. It's begging us to pay attention. And when we do that, I just, and maybe I sound a little mushy here, I don't know. I think something beautiful is going to come from it. I do.
This is why I love when people use the term known science or our science or known
Mhm.
physics. Don't
Mhm.
say, that we're at the limit of physics or something. You don't know. You
We
just
don't,
know what you
exactly.
know. You know what human science and human physics, but
Mhm.
you can't know, universal laws of physics that are, you just can't know universal. You can only know
Right.
what we've discovered on Earth. So I like when people are careful and they use those terms, because it's yet undiscovered, it's yet codified, and even you've said it's not yet understood. you
It's
know
not.
um
It's not. I
so
mean, we don't even know if we're opening up other intelligences or tapping into other types of technologies, of course, that could maybe really give us the answer or give us some sort of semblance of, wow, wow, we thought that was right, but boy, it sure isn't. It's there's so much more out there. And it's like
we we
we're, yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
we about to dig into it, Nicole, because I want to ask, I want to get into the, but I'll tell you what, before we leave tonight, don't let me leave without asking you about 28 Days Haunted, because I'm gonna ask you about that series. So what we got.
Oh, you know what? I haven't seen it. I know what it is, but I haven't seen it, so I don't, yeah.
I'm verklempt.
I I I
But
have
anyway,
not. Mhm.
it's
If
really
you
good.
guys have seen it, we can do, yeah.
I have, but I don't even know if Debs and Nathan have seen it. But what I want to do, I want to go to Debs and then we'll go down to Nathan and to you with this notion of demons and something that Nicole suggested about a non-human intelligence. Debs, in everything that you've learned in all of your research and all the hours that you've thought about this, what do you think a demon is?
Honestly, I think it's a semantic term covering a lot of different things. I know that sounds like I'm backing out of answering, but if you look at other cultures, they have different names for a mischievous spirit, like the jinn, right?
Yep.
Even like gnomes and gremlins, they're mischievous little beings that are bothering humans or harassing them. So I feel, and even in like the more spiritual realm, we have like poltergeists doing kind of mischievous things to humans also. So I feel like, I have a question mark on that. You know,
Mhm.
like, is there something that really is a demon, or is it a whole bunch of things getting that label?
Yeah.
Okay, let me try to reframe it from a discussion Nathan and I had yesterday, because there's a podcast that I'll send to you guys about exorcism, and it
Mm.
surrounds the sort of experiences of Father Carlos Martins, who I believe in the Catholic Church in this country, he is I hate to say the number one exorcist, but I believe they describe him in some manner as the Catholic Church's preferred exorcist. So I will ask you, Debs, when this happens, and Nathan and I discussed this yesterday, where he's trying to exorcise, he's doing his initial interview with someone who's potentially possessed. He doesn't know yet, and at one point, he went behind the subject and took one, he said it was an eighth of a drop of holy water, and flicked it on the person's back. And they just started absolutely screaming with that, that demonic, deep, growling voice that didn't sound like the individual himself. So, this sort of evil something, and I'm characterizing it that way, and forgive me just because I don't know exactly how to characterize it, but that's how the clergy characterizes it, is able to, at the invitation of an individual, inhabit that body. Do you think that that's something that is another, as Nicole said, maybe a non-human intelligence, or what do you make of that? And then we'll go to Nathan, we'll go to Nicole with that question.
That's a tough one. Like, I can't
Yeah.
help but, like, my psychology background comes up in this too. You know, I keep
Yeah.
thinking like the water itself is not what's going to matter. It's the
Yeah.
fact that the person thinks that the water is going to hurt them is going to be a
Hmm.
factor. You know, like, I can't help but think that that's an issue too. So, I mean, do I think that there's actual evil from non-human intelligence or spirits? Absolutely. I can answer that.
Fair enough. Nathan.
Yeah, I think, and Nicole, I really love the way that you kind of set this up earlier. And Deb, you hit on this as well, but it's the kind of characterization that we give to this energy or entity. That we label it demonic because we associate it with it doing something harmful to human beings. So it's antagonistic towards us, and therefore it's demonic. And we have these kind of archetypes that we've inherited in the West of,
Mhm.
demons are against us and angels are for us. And, so it just gets bucketed into this demon character category. But I think, kind of stepping back from that knee jerk reaction to label it like that, it's more so just,
Mhm.
you know, what is the overall energy of this being,
Mhm.
and what is it, trying to do. It has its own kind of need in a way, just like we
Right.
have a need, and sometimes those needs are not in alignment. Just like the needs of two friends may not be in alignment, right? Like
Right.
you may want something and I want the opposite. Well, does that make you a demon to me? Well, no. We're just going to have to negotiate,
Right.
kind of our relationship in this way. Um, and in terms of the holy water situation, or the exorcist situation, I mean, humans, you can look through history, there are lots of examples where there's kind of a shaman type figure in the community who helps kind of transmute some of these energies that possess, quote unquote, people in the community. And most other people in the community don't know how to engage or work with that kind of person.
Right.
And so these shamans or priests, they have taken it upon themselves to in a way kind of commune with these energies that the rest of us are just kind of like, well, I don't, this makes me uncomfortable, I don't want to get close to this, but they're leaning in rather than leaning away, right?
Mhm.
And it's those kinds of people that we need, because what they do is they transform that energy, that situation, and they kind of help that energy, which is sort of stuck in a way, like it's
Mhm.
possessed in that person, and allow it to flow away from that. Like it's like it's blocked essentially, and they're kind of unblocking it. And the violent reaction, to that holy water or what have you, is, in a way, I kind of look at that as like almost like the collective unconscious awareness of what's happening in that individual to this sort of overall concept. And there's a revulsion to being to like wanting to be set free, because they're almost like in a way happy where they are, but they're also not at home, so it's like, hey, you're happy and comfortable there, but we kind of need you to move along. And that can be uncomfortable for anyone, right? To be kind of if you have a guest that stays at your house too long and you say, look, it's time to go, they may not like you saying that to them, but ultimately they know they need to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Nicole. I'll
No,
come
were you
back
going to
then.
ask something?
I was going to ask Nathan, like, if you go to Ben and Jerry's, like, would you be more prone to get like a cookie dough type of an ice cream, or more like a coffee with a mocha chip type of an ice cream?
Oh man, a good coffee ice cream is pretty hard to beat.
Sounds good.
Now, a younger me would say cookie dough, but the older me is saying coffee. So
I'll go for ice cream with the mature Nathan, the evolved Nathan. Then, okay,
exactly.
there we go. The other thing, and as I just want to just add to the frame just a little bit for your answer on this same question, Nicole, that perplexed me, that some of these exorcists report is they report in some people an unnatural strength, like like 100-pound woman tossing these 300-pound men across the room. There's another thing about someone who's never learned a language and all of a sudden they're speaking in Latin, or there's some reports of them speaking like in a Norse tongue that would be associated with the Viking era, or something like a language that they couldn't know, or their family and friends say they did not know this language. So I have to add that into the mix to try to understand what's going on here.
Yeah, the whole concept of demons to me, I think, is something that's misunderstood, not maybe completely classified according to what it really is. Uh, i- and this is just me personally, and I have a psychology background as too. Not that that makes me more, knowledgeable of it or anything. I'm just stating that I kind of have a different take, and I'll say this, that there's malevolent energy from living people. Okay, so and even non-human energies. Let's just, for the sake of argument, let's say that that's what a demon is. And it has this intent to want to do malice and things like that. I do, and this is again my own opinion, I do feel that we need to kind of think about the concept of thought projections and things like tulpas. So it's when someone concentrates on a thought for so long, that thought can take its own life form. And so when you think about demons going back hundreds of thousands of years and in different cultures, beliefs and predispositions have been formed, and that's just kind of almost one big gigantic, if you will, it could be thought formation. So again, and going back to what we were discussing earlier with the whole demon thing, people that aren't really, whether they're religious or not, certain religions are predisposed, like Catholicism, for example, to more fear ghosts and things of that nature. But let's say there are people that don't have a lot of knowledge in the paranormal, or maybe they haven't really had a lot of experiences. So and maybe they're vulnerable, maybe they're a little bit naive, and they're watching a lot of TV shows or movies or things of that nature, and they're seeing all of this evil and things of that, of that nature, horror, whatnot. That's, whether they realize it or not, that could be influencing them and influencing how they interpret the types of activity that they come across. So then you get into interpretations as well. So I feel, and then when you get into to human energy, how, out of all the percentage of I'm going to say alleged demonic attacks that people have had, maybe they were, maybe they weren't, have those been extensively scrutinized and examined to rule out any sort of psychological component or illness or any sort of uh, psychogenic type of causing of the activity. Because I do think that for a lot of these cases, oh, I have this in my house, I have that, and they think it's something extremely negative. I think in many percentages, they might be causing that type of activity. Maybe there's a certain family dynamic. Maybe they have some negative energy built like deep within that they're projecting outward. Maybe it's, and how many case requests that we get, and there's so many people writing saying, "Oh my gosh, I have anxiety, I have this, I have a headache, I'm getting all these symptoms." And they're blaming the paranormal for everything. Now, maybe I'm not saying that paranormal activity can't, or cause physical symptoms in people or psychological. Yeah, it can. But for most of these cases, a lot of people want to blame all of their issues onto the paranormal. Oh, the ghost did it. It's the ghost's fault. So, there's all of this. There's so much involvement that I really think in terms of the whole demon thing, there needs to be a team of people that examine these people that are there, that have these sorts of experiences, because we just don't know if it's influence. Are they causing it? Is it some sort of, psychokinetic thing? We don't know. I don't know. So
It is a fascinating topic. I'm ready to go for another round of questions. So Deb, fire away, everybody.
Yeah, I wanted to comment on that real quick if I can. I just wanted to say I feel
Yeah.
like the same thing happens with the UFO topic. People are
Mhm.
always turning to the UFOs and saying, "Please come fix what we're doing wrong." And I'm like,
Oh,
how about we, take some
oh my
responsibility for what
God.
we've done?
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous. But I wanted to talk about
That's
Yeah.
funny. It's true.
this is yeah, they
It's
just so many
yeah,
scapegoats. It's crazy.
it's hard. It's crazy.
So I wanted to comment on something that is shared on all of these topics: Bigfoot, science, um, religion, um, spiritual work, and of course the UFOs. It would be orbs, right?
Oh,
So I feel like
yeah. Or
okay. So
orbs.
I
Okay.
wanted and also even fairy lore, because orbs are like little fairies to some people. So I wanted to comment on the fact that if you are interested in UFOs and you go and try a different branch of the paranormal, you discover very quickly that there are things like spirit orbs. So, of course, it's like in the eye of the beholder what you're dealing with. So, what do you think people could learn if they were more open minded to studying all of the topics? Like, what are they missing because they're not paying attention to all of these topics at once?
Oh, I just want to make sure. Let me talk a little bit about orbs first. So orbs is a it's a fascinating subject. I mean, all us in the paranormal community, most of us are like, oh yeah, 99.9% of orbs, oh yeah, it can be explained away. They're mostly caused with digital cameras and things of that nature. Oh, it's dust. It could be moisture. It could be bugs. It could be things of lens
Yeah.
flares, whatever. So yes, most orbs, especially if you are using a digital camera and you produce orbs on your camera, most likely it can be explained away. There's the little I can't even tell you how many pictures that I've had emailed to me from iPhone pictures with the little green dot. Okay, no, it's a glitch with the iPhone. It's not a ghost. It's nothing like that. Now, if someone visually sees orbs, let's say they're at a site and they visually with their own eyes see something coming out of the wall or self-illuminated right in front of them, then yeah, that could be interesting. So what I look for in orbs, even, and I'm not saying that some orbs and pictures might not be orbs. I just think most of them can obviously be explained away. But some of the telltale signs that it might not be, something logical or natural is it self-illuminated? In other words, it's not being illuminated by the flash or
Your
by,
camera. Yeah.
the camera, things of that nature. Does it have some sort of 3D effect? is it moving in some sort of intelligent flight pattern? So if it's a linear pattern, most likely it could be, the way that the air is blowing in your house. If you have a window open, it's going to go in that fashion of the current and follow that. But if it's some sort of erratic flight pattern, then that maybe could be, some people see faces that are very identifiable. Other people see numbers. I've seen orbs with numbers in it. So it's just, it's an iffy situation. I just think most of those can be explained. So just a little note on that. I have seen visual orbs with my own eye, and those are quite interesting. And the ones that I've seen are very self-illuminated, almost as bright as if you look up in the sun. Obviously not quite, but almost as bright as if you look up in the sun. So really interesting when that happens. So the second part of your question, can you ask it again? Because I'm not sure I understood
Okay,
it
so
or forgot
see,
about
like yeah, I was trying to
Yeah.
say that all of these topics talk about orbs, and by the way, for scientists, it's ball lightning. But
Right, right, right.
for those who
Yep.
are not aware, they call it ball
Spook lights
lightning,
or whatever.
right?
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I want to know if people are looking into this, as an aspect of this, but they're not looking at all of these different areas. They're missing out a big part of the story. Like for instance, the orbs. So there for in the spiritual area, there's stories about like ghost roads where orbs follow people.
Yes. Mhm.
So I feel like people who study UFOs should know that. Like they're missing something. So what do you think people could learn from studying all these areas?
So I there's so many similarities with cross researching and cross investigating these different areas. And so, for example, maybe you are looking at something into ufology, and maybe that answer, whatever you experience or encounter or research that you're doing, you may uncover something that can be applicable to maybe cryptozoology or the ghost and spirits realm, hauntings, things of that nature. So I think it's a benefit to research all of the different areas and try to put together a list of either I wouldn't say no necessarily, maybe because we obviously don't know 100% of all of this, but put together a list of some of the parallels and similarities between all of these fields. And then obviously you can make a list as well of some of the differences. So I think that that's extremely important. But I mean, yeah, it's the whole concept of orbs. I mean, people should know that. Okay, well, it could be a spirit, it could be a ghost, it could be a spook light, it could be some sort of swamp gas, it could be lights from a UFO, whatever. There's the whole uh, uh, people see sometimes on train tracks. They might see, for example, the phantom lantern of the train conductor who maybe had his head sadly decapitated, and you see that residual impression of the lantern, or some sort of ball of light kind of swaying back and forth. So, it crosses over into these other fields. I hope I answered it. I know that's a really good question though.
I
It's
will
good
I'll
to think
say,
actually.
about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say
go ahead,
like
Dibs.
one of the things that came to mind when I was when this question came to mind was that people could try using the spirit box with non-human intelligence or Bigfoot,
Right.
not just spirit. So that's like
Exactly.
why I was
Yeah.
asking that. Like, who's tried that? I've not heard that. Everyone channels in all of these topics. Everyone is trying to channel, but is everyone using the same tools? Wouldn't it be helpful if we put our heads together and did?
That's
I
a good
will.
point. That is such a good point, and not every gadget or piece of equipment is going to be necessarily applicable. I'm and this is I'm just not going to talk too long on this. I'll just say it's my opinion. I could be a billionaire and I still wouldn't own all the gadgets that are out there today. I think less is more, and us ourselves, our human senses and our energy, there's no such thing as a ghost detector, and so we are our best, I guess, sense and piece of equipment
Mhm.
out there. So, but anyways, sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, I was going to say I'll ask Kathy Westerman of she's out of Ocala. I saw her do the dowsing rods out in the forest when we were looking for Bigfoot. She
Ah,
was a paranormal investigator prior, so she has some equipment. So I'll ask her if she's tried any of that. She does have a pretty damn good photo. But what I wanted to tell you, Nicole, before we go to Nathan, is that I have heard not one, two, or three. I've heard dozens of Bigfoot experiencers. These are the people that go, in some cases, quite deep into the forest, miles off from the trailhead. They camp and have had orb experiences where
Mm-hmm.
you can rule out a lot of the prosaic explanations for lights that
Right.
we might experience in suburbia, or in the city even. So, I mean, you're out there in the pitch black forest and you see something glowing red. Oh man, I mean, if you watch Missing 411, The Hunted, and you
Mm-hmm.
get to the fourth story on there about Ron Moorhead and his guys up there in that camp in California, where they see not only orbs, they see something that looks like a lightsaber flowing through the forest. I mean, that just gave me chills just watching the reenactment of that. So, but
That's
to make a long story
fascinating.
short, yeah, people are seeing orbs in places where it's not quite as easy to explain away, because one of the things about being in the forest is it is dark. When
Oh
you have a
yeah.
good canopy over your head and you're out there at night, it's dark.
Oh
So
yeah.
let me go to Money Nathan, and I'll get one more, and then if there's any final hits, and then we'll do cabby goodbyes.
Yeah, sounds good. One of the things we've talked about on our show, and in our private conversation as well, is kind of how lucky we are in the UFO community to have
Mm-hmm.
the government now officially taking it seriously, or being more
Yes.
open about
Yep.
UFOs and UAPs. And I know that in the history of the paranormal, many of our kind of notable like government figures, or notable scientists from the 19th century were really into the paranormal. Like mediums were really a huge thing back then,
Yeah.
seances and that kind of thing. And I'm just curious, in the paranormal community, um, is there any, both maybe frustration, but are there any signs of hope that from a larger kind of consensus perspective, that paranormal activity is being taken more seriously in the way that UFOs are now kind of having their day?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I think again, you have to who you're talking to and what their involvement is in the field. If you're talking to a dedicated veteran researcher who spends the time to do all the different types of research into the paranormal, they might have a different answer versus someone that is maybe new to the field or just in it for thrills and chills, and they don't care about anything else. So the people like myself and you guys and the folks in the chat that take this seriously and really want to try to dig into the discoveries, if there are any. Hopefully there will be more discoveries in the future. uh yeah, I do see people taking it more serious and wanting to uh really try to dig in and see if there, we can discover some answers to it, or maybe more theories or things of that nature. And that's it kind of parallels to the whole researching all the different subtopics of the paranormal as well, and consulting with those in the the ufology community or the cryptozoology community, and hearing what they have to say. So and to answer your question, yeah, but it's the people that are going to give you a more I think honest answer on that are the ones that are really really devoted to the field. And then those that are just kind of in it where, oh, I just want to go walk around a cemetery at night and just see if I can see a ghost and that's it, probably won't have that deeper observation that us will have, if that makes sense.
Great, thank you.
So I have a friend, our friend here, Scott Gearin, is here. He has some real good UFO videos. And by the way, his place in Minnesota, Nicole, he showed us Bigfoot tracks. And there was, I don't know how many feet of snow were in his yard, but probably about 4, because his Ford Raptor looked like it was half buried.
Oh my
Um,
god.
he
Oh
he has a
wow.
yeah, he lives near like a state forest. His
Oh,
property
so
borders
nice.
that. One of those, right? He has a Bigfoot howl that associated with a video. It's like him walking outside his house, and you hear a I can't even
Oh my
I
God,
can't
that's
even do it right now.
amazing.
It's an awesome howl, and then he has some tracks. So here's Scott Gearon's question for you: have any orbs set off any motion detectors on your cameras?
Good
When you
question. So on the investigations that we've done, no, actually, no, we have not had any of those. We actually had an interesting private residence case. Oh, I would say about maybe 8 years ago. And so this woman, she lives up in Fallbrook, and she had this large home, and it was used kind of as a caretaker facility. And so she had all these different, IR surveillance cameras, and so she kept seeing these orbs. And so she contacted us, and we were able to determine that, most of the orbs are caused by, certain things, dust and things of that nature. And we even replicated an experiment for her that she could do by turning on her phone light and looking at the little specks of dust and things of that nature. We even watched the camera with her, and we were pointing out and explaining what those are on her camera. But no, I've never actually had any case where where it's actually set off anything that I know of. No, because it would be on video. No, I mean, we've had motion detectors going off, but specifically on video, no. That's a good question. That'd be really
my
cool if
man's
that happened. That'd be interesting to get something like that on camera, and then have that, security alarm going off and things like that, or motion sensor alarm going off. I mean, that's two pieces right there of the puzzle that connect, right? So,
That's it, man.
yep.
I was going to ask you, um, is there when you're on an investigation? I actually have two questions for you, but let's get the first one out of the way. When you're on an investigation, is there a moment when you say, "I'm done," or "I got to get out of here"? Is there a certain circumstance or feeling that you get when you're like, "Okay, it's time to close up shop"?
Yes, two instances. So if we, as the investigators, are really starting to feel physically tired and mentally drained after, 4 hours, because it's intense going in there. I mean,
Hmm.
doing these
Hmm.
8-hour investigations, case studies are better because you have time over the course of weeks or months to really research that location. But if you're granted an opportunity to do like an 8-hour or 4-hour, that's fine too. But really, what can you tell just from that short amount of time? Not really much of anything, really. But yeah, so if we're tired physically or mentally, that's a time to call it. Sorry, my clock's going off. But also, if we're getting the vibe or general impression from the energies there that they're done, absolutely. If we go in and we ask, is it okay that we're here, and we get a concrete definitive answer of no, we will most likely leave. Or if it's just, sometimes if it's like, is it okay if we talk to you right now, and they say no, well, maybe we'll just switch to doing a vigil or something like that. But there have been a couple of times where we've received some really uh compelling answers of no, on, like, when we just can feel it, they don't want us there, and so then we'll leave. So yeah, good question.
We have about 12 minutes left. Is there an investigation that comes to mind that you would like to tell us about that probably would scare the hell out of us or something? No, but honestly, just anyone that you would want to tell us about.
Oh my gosh. Well, there's so many, but I'm gonna share this because it touches on some very important elements that are sometimes
Hmm.
overlooked. So this was 2010, and so of course I'm in San Diego, California, and so Oceanside is about 30 minutes north. There is
Hmm.
a known restaurant up there called Hunter Steakhouse, and it's actually built over a Native American burial ground.
Oops.
And I believe if gosh, I have the history of it in one of my books, but I believe that some of the graves were desecrated in the building of the freeway and things of that nature. So we were there one night, and we had broken up into teams of two, so three and three. One team was upstairs, another team was downstairs in the bar area. That was my group. And so we were about an hour or so into the investigation when all of a sudden, and then you have your two-way radios. So one of the investigators from upstairs radioed down to us saying, "Stay where you are. This place has just been robbed." So of course we're like, all right, we just sat there quietly, and we found out that, the cops came on the premises. Oh my gosh, it was a big thing, like 3 or 4 cops. There was a helicopter flying overhead. I guess 2 armed men came through the kitchen, and so they had guns and everything. So that was
Wow.
scary. Luckily,
Yeah.
nothing happened to us or anything, but it brings up 2 points here. One, always have some sort of emergency plan set in place. Also, your permission form and your liability waiver, make sure you have that signed by the manager, the owner, whoever, whatever place you're investigating, have that, because the cops, we showed them that and we explained who we were, and they just had us stay there in case they needed to question us. They didn't, and they let us go. But yeah, so have those emergency place or plans set in place, whether it's for earthquakes or fires or injuries. Have at least 1 or 2 people on the team, specifically every, let's say you have a group of 5 or 10, doesn't matter. At least one
Mhm.
person that comes on the investigation out of the entire team should be CPR and BLS certified. I've heard cases. One of my friends actually was on an investigation at night, and she tripped and broke her ankle. So survey these locations in the daylight where you can see and map out the place and kind of notate possible, dangerous spots and things of that nature. But that was scary. I mean, we were lucky
Definitely,
that
man.
yeah, I mean, that's like unheard of. You don't hear about that too often, but my gosh. So
I thought you were going to say the robbers were ghosts, but Debs, do you have anything
I,
final for Miss
I
Nicole?
I
Yeah.
wish they were. My God.
Actually, I was really curious. Going back to Leslie Kane's work, she spoke about physical evidence, on like a plasma almost that some mediums were able to emit. And since you've done so much work on this, I'm wondering if you've heard anything about that.
Are you talking about like the ectoplasm, like during the
Mm-hmm.
spiritualist movement?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the spiritualist movement is so fascinating, and it was also seeped in fraud as well. So a lot of the said ectoplasm that these female mediums were said to produce, gosh, they found out that it was like cheesecloth and all these various different substances that they use to fake this sort of thing. So yeah, the spiritualist movement, I think in many ways it fueled modern day paranormal research. I mean, that's basically why the Society for Psychical Research was formed, and is still today. And it's really the hallmark of how really investigations should be done. There's a lot of good information in the SBR, but yeah, so spiritualist movement is very fascinating. You really learn about, if you break it down and study it, you can see how the fraud was kind of caused and produced, and how, bias and suggestibility and all of that played into the whole situation. So it's really fascinating. Yeah.
And
I'm
just
gonna
to
tell you
follow up
what.
on that. Oh, sorry, go
You
ahead.
go ahead, brother.
Well, I was going to ask about ports, which it kind of ties into that a little bit, but it's and we had the Navajo Rangers on the show a few
Oh
episodes back,
yeah. Yeah.
and they had shared a story with us about ports where they had coins that were coming out of just nowhere, then falling
That's so
on the
cool.
ground, and they were like all heads up or something. I forget, there was something really unique about them. Um, and I was just curious if you've heard similar kinds of situations, but not with coins, but with any objects.
Yeah, I've never had anything personally for me, but I've talked with others that have experienced coins or jewelry just appearing out of nowhere. And so it's fascinating. I don't know if there's a connection with portals there.
Hmm.
And yeah, the whole apportation process is pretty intriguing. But yeah, I haven't had that happen to me yet. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, as we pointed out on the show, if it does happen, make sure you collect it, take it to the coin laundry.
right.
Yes.
They're just doing you a favor, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pay
Also,
the
those
toll.
machines that dispense water. A lot of those water machines, you can put coins, get you a gallon. So very
Very
valuable,
useful.
man. I don't think the Paranormal Rangers really took stock of how awesome it was. They were getting all this change.
Agree.
God, how much did they get?
It was a pretty good amount.
He's
And
bags.
and he said it was still happening to him, which I thought was interesting.
Bags. I haven't yet watched. I'm sorry. It's on my queue
Yeah.
list. There's
No,
so
no,
many
no.
shows on my queue. But
It's all
oh my
good. But
God.
yeah, it was fascinating that
Bags of it. Oh my gosh.
yeah, they collected evidence bags. I don't know how many. Like, I don't know what the total was.
And it was U.S. coins, or was it a
I think
different?
so, yeah.
Yes.
Oh my
Quarters.
gosh.
Yeah. That just freaks me out because you can't. There's no way to really explain that. But two
No.
things I want to say. One thing is, we want to have you come on and guest co-host with us for an
Oh,
episode. So I'll
sure.
coordinate with you
Yeah, that'd be
on
fun.
what type of guest you want to that you want to interview with us. And if we get the Paranormal Rangers on again, we'll definitely have you on, because I was messaging Jonathan the other day. He's a little bit more well known because Stan is still working, but
Mhm.
Navajo gave me some. Would you call those photos of petroglyphs? Is that what you call them,
Oh yeah,
Nathan
those are
Debs?
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then there was a possible UAP in there. So basically, I gave them to Jonathan to say, "Hey, what's the origin of these petroglyphs?" And he named the tribe and and around the time frame that they would have been created. So I got to give this to a Navajo friend of mine who's like, "Hey, what's this, man? I'm part of the New Mexico Navajos."
That
So
is
anyway,
so awesome. Wow. That's
yeah. So
cool.
we gon' get you on again because you're awesome, and I want to hear about some of these investigations. So
Yeah.
we will get you on again. Okay.
This was so much
So
fun. Thank you guys so much for this. There's a camaraderie. Yeah, you can
yes,
feel
ma'am.
it when you go on shows, whether you're a guest or you're hosting. So yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate the
Wait,
thoughtful questions, all of it. You guys are awesome.
you're gonna get 3 goodbyes. So this is not the first. So we got to start with Deb, with Cabby goodbye. So go ahead, Debs.
Yes, thank you for coming and talking to us all about the phenomenon. And I just wanted to point out that hopefully conversations like this will take the para out of paranormal and make
There you
people
go.
start to recognize it's part of the human condition.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amen to that. Hmm.
If
Yeah.
there's a secret psychology handshake, I don't know if you guys have that, but
Yeah,
We're
I mean,
using it.
Empathy.
It's a mental one. It's a mental
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
That's so
Go
true.
ahead,
No,
Lenny.
I mean, just to echo this, I mean, look, there's something deeply meaningful about the work that you're doing,
Mhm.
and I think that it's not just about the deceased; it's about what's happening here and there,
Yes.
and the connection between the two. And we have such a poor
Yes.
relationship with death in our culture that this is a way of redeeming the dignity in death. And
Absolutely.
so not only that is important, but just the work that you're doing generally is important. And I think there's many in our field that can learn many things from folks in your field. And so I'm really
No.
grateful to have you with us, and look forward to further partnerships.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, absolutely. What you're doing is phenomenal. I love the way you approach this. Your viewpoints, everything just aligns so beautifully. So thank you for mentioning that. That's very important. Brings a smile to my face.
Here's your third Cabby goodbye, and you're lucky because sometimes we have 6 people on here, so you get 6 goodbyes. But
I love it. I love it.
but what I want to say is that we really appreciate what you're doing. We endeavor to try to bring the 3 communities together: the Bigfoot community, the UFO community, and the paranormal community. We see
Hmm.
them all as one. You
Yeah.
have such a beautiful, bright light about you, and the way that you treat the topic. Um,
Oh, yeah,
and
I'm gonna seriously start crying. That means so much. Like I
No,
swear,
wait, no,
I'm
I
getting
don't.
emotional.
I don't want to make you for Klempo, but I do want you to tell people about where they can find your work. You have 6 books out, I believe, at least 6, maybe more. Plus the radio show and your podcast. Please tell everybody about it.
Yeah, so you can find me. So my regular website is authornicolestrickland.com, and then my team's website is san diego paranormal research.com. It is in need of a new redesign, I must say. And then of course on Facebook, I have different pages. So Nicole D. Strickland is my main one, and then I have author Nicole Strickland, Afterlife Chronicles, and then my team's Facebook is the acronym, so SDPRS. I'm on Twitter, of course, SDPRS Nicole, Instagram, author Nicole Strickland, and books that you can find online, pretty much all of the online retailers. My Queen Mary books are also sold on board the Queen Mary.
The Queen
And
Mary.
so, yeah, on board the Queen Mary. So that's pretty cool. And then let's see, my San Diego's Most Haunted is also sold in some stores in San Diego as well. And then let's see. Podcasting. So yeah. So Todd Bates and I, we co-host Haunted Voices Radio. It was on Tuesday nights. It's now on Friday nights. So 8 Pacific, 10 Central, 11 Eastern. And then my show, The Afterlife Chronicles, it's on hiatus, same network. It was on Thursday nights at 6 p.m. I'm actually on hiatus still. So I'll probably be restarting my show sometime in maybe May or June. So yeah, that's about it.
That is awesome stuff. We will have all your stuff in the show notes. I'll be busy typing that all up into the show notes if you'd like to find Nicole. You will see her back on here as both guests and as guest co-host.
Oh, that'd be so fun. Thank you so much for having me,
yes,
guys.
ma'am.
This was awesome.
Thank you so much. So for Nicole, for Nathan, for Debs, this is DJ saying peace out, one love. We'll see you down the road. And as always, we're wondering what's up around the bend.
There you go. I love it. Awesome, guys.